Hey everyone, welcome to TPUSA Live. I'm Jon Root, joined by Isabel Brown. How are you?
So happy to be here on this What in the World Wednesday. Can't wait for a great show.
Wednesdays are always the best day. And I know you just got back from Nashville, right?
I did. I was in Nashville yesterday filming another episode of Candace with the Daily Wire. It was super fun, but happy to be home on the blue couch.
Oh, it's good to have you back. We got a great live stream for you today. You know how we kick it off? Human Events Daily with Jack Posobiec. He's talking about how President Biden and his White House seeks a confrontation with Moscow to restore their credibility, or whatever credibility they have left.
It's a big Russia week again. I feel like we're living in deja vu.
Is that like a Marsha pun?
I like it. No, but you just hear it all the time from the mainstream media. The good news is Jack's going to break down all the facts that you need to know.
And obviously, the leftist mainstream media has got a lot to say about January 6th, but there is news that Ray Epps is going to testify.
Exciting stuff to hear. We are also going to talk about the Israeli vaccine chief admitting that vaccine passports don't actually stop the spread of COVID-19.
Really?
Shocking information.
No way.
I know. And different factions of the CCP are feuding ahead of the Olympics in Beijing this upcoming month. We'll see how that turns out.
Well, once again, we should not be competing in China for the Olympics.
Yes,
there's no way we should be there.
Despite a diplomatic boycott.
I can go on and on about that. But right after Human Events Daily with Jack Posobiec, sitting on the couch, and it is basically a Boys Day plus Isabel.
Boys Day, bros. I'm really excited about this. It's me and John. We've got Stephen Davis joining us. We've got Jobob coming back to the couch. I'm really excited to bro out with all these boys.
And then we were mentioning earlier, it's one of our favorite days of the week. It's Wednesday. So it's What in the World Wednesday, some of the wackiest, wildest, and weirdest content we found on the internet this week.
Which means you're going to be watching Jobob go every time because he's still in shock with how crazy the world is. His sweet, innocent heart.
Jobob, get used to it.
So much.
It's Wednesday. It's crazy. It's weird. This is the world we live in. And then right after that, we are going to give some COVID updates and also President Biden's one-year review. He's supposed to Byron.
1 year in.
He is supposed to be speaking. We're going to give a quick little take on that and then really diving into it on Thursday with Drew Hernandez. But it's going to be an interesting time, and we're going to have some hot takes after that.
It will, and the White House is previewing a little bit of what the president is going to talk about in his speech. I covered this on the news this morning, but essentially they're just taking credit for everything the Trump administration did because that's the way that things happen in the Biden administration.
Make it make sense.
I know. We can't.
Right after that, you're going to hear the final speech from AmericaFest 2021. Charlie Kirk jumped on stage after a very successful event, one of the biggest events the conservative movement's ever seen outside a presidential rally. 10,000 patriots, people just loving life, loving America, and loving freedom. He talks about marriage, technology, college, knowledge, wisdom, and the big man upstairs.
Does knowledge come from college these days, John?
I'm guessing no.
No, it doesn't. But Charlie did a great job breaking that down. Then we are going to wrap everything up with some more politics from the pop culture queen, Alex Clark. She's talking about some spicy topics today.
Always.
Such as, is Aaron Rodgers and Shailene Woodley's relationship on the rocks? That would be pretty spicy. 200 plus doctors have asked Spotify, and when I say doctors, I don't actually mean board-certified physicians. I mean like professors and dentists, and one guy who calls himself a cannabis scientist. I'm sure there's a lot of hands-on research involved.
I think I knew a lot of
that profession of being a doctor.
I'm sure there was a lot of cannabis scientists there in Colorado.
Yeah, on my college campus, and probably yours as well. But these doctors have asked Spotify to remove Joe Rogan's podcast episodes with Dr. Robert Malone and Dr. McCulloch, saying that he's a menace to public health and spreading science misinformation. So absolutely crazy. Lastly, Alex is going to talk about the world's 10 richest men, including Jeff Bezos, Zuckerberg, and Bill Gates, who all became trillionaires during the pandemic.
There's also one other thing that she's covering in politics. I know you love Spider-Man.
I love Spider-Man.
I like Spider-Man.
Who's your favorite Spider-Man, real quick?
Tobey Maguire.
Oh, Tom Holland is a way better Spider-Man.
No,
he is Peter Parker.
No, I grew up with Tobey Maguire, so that's why he's my favorite. Like, I was one of those. I had the entire Spider-Man bedding. I had all the action figures. I mean, I still have some of that stuff on my desk now, and I'm 30. I love Spider-Man. It's great, but she was trying to say that nobody knew that Andrew Garfield would be in the movie. People knew.
Everybody knew. What are you
People
talking
knew.
about, Alex?
So,
Everybody knew. Yeah.
A lot of people knew. She was trying to say like Emma Stone didn't know that she was going to be in the, I guess, the ex-co-star or an ex-girlfriend. I guess they still chat a little bit.
People have been theorizing the whole multiverse, all three Spider-Men doing the meme and pointing at each other in this movie for months before the movie came out. In fact, I was really expecting it while we were there in the movie theater. And even though everyone went, it was really just out of joy, not out of surprise. So I would disagree with that hot take from Alex, but we do love Spider-Man, John and I. So go watch the movie if you haven't yet.
That is it from us. Coming up next, we've got Human Events Daily with Jack Posobiec. See you soon.
If you want to see an example of failed socialism, go to an Indian reservation.
A lot of the soldiers were very aggressive, so the women did get raped.
Muerte means a place of suffering, dying, starvation, nothing good.
I didn't realize how corrupt things were. I didn't realize what kind of environment we were living in.
We had no running water, we had no power.
They de-incentivize people from, opportunity. That's why our suicide rate has climbed up astronomical rates. I think that's what I'm also projecting to my people, even if I have to fight you to save you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard today's edition of Human Events Daily, powered by Turning Point USA. Today's first story, an exclusive and a shade war update. I know it's been a little while. We've got another one for you. The Biden White House is actively seeking confrontation with Moscow to restore credibility. We're going to break it down. We've got a data dump from a White House staffer to Human Events. Next, Ray Epps is set to testify on Friday. We'll explain it all. Third, the Israeli vaccine chief has come out and admitted that vaccine passports are ineffective and don't stop the spread. And then finally, CCP factions are intensifying their feud ahead of the Olympic Games. All this and more ahead. Human Events Daily. Well, today we do have an exclusive report here on Human Events Daily on the Ukraine crisis that is now being exacerbated by President Biden and staffers within his administration. Human Events Daily can exclusively report we got a data dump last night from a White House staffer that has insight into everything that's going on. Now, I told you before that this administration is going to be using Ukraine as a way to wag the dog. Now, what is wag the dog? Wag the dog is when you are faced with, an administration is faced with a domestic crisis, crippling failures of their agenda across the board, just like the Biden administration is experiencing now. And I said this last Friday when I said today was the end of the Biden administration, because it was, for all intents and purposes. They have negative political capital. And I said, what are they going to do? They are going to use this crisis in Ukraine. They are going to use the potential of an armed kinetic conflict, sending Americans over there, the sons and daughters of the deplorables, to be in harm's way over this border dispute, as a way to restore their credibility for their domestic and international agenda. And then, lo and behold, what does White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki come out and say next?
So let's be clear. Our view is this is an extremely dangerous situation. We're now at a stage where Russia could at any point launch an attack in Ukraine. And what Secretary Blinken is going to go do is highlight very clearly there is a diplomatic path forward. It is the choice of President Putin and the Russians to make whether they are going to suffer severe economic consequences or not.
So here's the data dump from last night. And I'm going to read this verbatim to you, directly messaged to me from a White House staffer. Biden is now at Condition Eagle, which means hourly updates. DOD and state are working 24/7 on appeasement options, but it's getting nowhere. Biden wanted to send Sullivan and Bonnie Jenkins to Moscow, but no response from the Kremlin, dead silence. Austin has been consulting with Panetta and Carter, and both of them are saying, just let him have what he wants. Yet Ron Klain, the White House Chief of Staff, is running around thinking that he is Patton, saying that we need to mobilize EUCOM and publicly commit to defending Ukraine by military force. He thinks that Biden can be, quote, the leader who defeated Putin. The divide is strikingly deep. Kamala, vice president, wants to avoid armed conflict in an election year, and yet President Biden is demoralized on the foreign policy front and anxiously wants to regain some credibility, so he is leaning more towards confrontation. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Blinken is on President Biden's side because he is still on the, shall we say, crap list from last September with the fall of Kabul. It is a complete clown show, end quote. They want to mobilize the United States military to get into a confrontation with a nuclear power in Eastern Europe over a border dispute that's been going on, sure, for 30 years since the fall of the Soviet Union, but when you really look at the dispute between Kiev and Moscow, this is something that goes back hundreds of years. There has always been territorial tension in Eastern Europe, and this is something that they are looking to work out. This is not, and I repeat, not a national security concern for the United States of America. Yet when it comes to the Biden family, we know very well why it is that the Biden family cares so deeply about Ukraine. What's really going on behind the scenes is that people like Tony Blinken, right? People like Victoria Nuland, Jake Sullivan, Jonathan Feiner, these were all people who served in the Obama administration. That's when you saw the Maidan revolution that overthrew President Yanukovych. That's when you saw Petro Poroshenko, who, by the way, is an oligarch, become the president of Ukraine because they wanted to bring Ukraine into NATO and they wanted to bring the Ukraine into the EU. That is what they consider unfinished business. And they realize that they're really only going to have a couple of more months of a free hand to do this stuff because it looks like the Congress will not be on their side come next year. So what are they going to do? They're trying to run the table to finish their unfinished business in Ukraine, working with the oligarchs over there, like the ones that were behind Burisma, like the ones that were giving Hunter Biden $50,000 a month for his expertise. We understand what you're doing here. This is Wag the Dog, and you are going to get people killed in Ukraine the same way that you got people killed in Kabul. Mark my words. Well, this Friday, none other than the man himself, Ray Epps, is going to testify before Speaker Pelosi's Special Select Committee on January 6th. Ray Epps himself will be in person. Now, here's a very interesting situation. Ray Epps met informally with the panel in November and told them that he had no relationship with the FBI. But I'm confused because we're told that Ray Epps, who was an Oath Keeper in Arizona, Oath Keepers, of course, have been charged with seditious conspiracy for the events of January 6th. We were told by none other than Congressman Adam Kinzinger, who got into it with me on Twitter, said, no, we talked to Ray Epps, he cooperated, and I quote him. Kinzinger said, "We thank Ray Epps for cooperating with the committee." And yet now we find that Ray Epps didn't actually fully cooperate with the committee in terms of testifying, right? You see, this is what people like Congressman Kinzinger do. They use weasel words to get out of things. He didn't say he testified before the committee. He said Epps cooperated with the committee. So what he's doing is he's misleading you to make you think that Epps testified before the committee. He's giving the impression that Epps testified before the committee. Everyone who read the story and reported on it certainly got the impression that he testified. That's what was implied by the congressman. And yet now we've got the story out of Politico that says he didn't actually testify. But now on Friday, that he does intend to sit for a transcribed interview on Friday with the Select Committee investigating the attack on the Capitol, his attorney said in a phone interview. All right, so let's go back to the tape. Let's go back and look at why it is that people have so many questions about Ray Epps. This is from January 5th, the night before January 6th.
Tomorrow, we need to go into the Capitol. Into the Capitol. No! Peacefully. Fed.
Now, from Politico, Epps has kept a low profile since former President Donald Trump's allies began promoting a theory that Epps had helped foment the attack. Their claims stem from videos taken on January 5th showing Epps urging Trump allies to go into the Capitol with members of the protest, an exhortation that some in the crowd quickly booed and responded to with chants accusing Epps of being a Fed. Epps quickly added that it should be done peacefully. Epps was also seen in footage just before 1 p.m. on January 6th at the front of a line of Trump supporters who were among the first to breach the Capitol barricades. He whispered something into the ear of Ryan Samsel, who has been charged as one of the first defendants to breach secured Capitol grounds. But Epps did not appear to join in the violence, and his lawyer says he was never in the Capitol building, key factors in the Justice Department's charging decisions. So here's what I don't understand. If you got a guy here who, and I said this last week when we talked about Ray Epps, I was there on January 5th doing stand-ups. And the stand-up is when you interview people in the crowd, man on the street kind of stuff. I remember seeing him with that big overshirt that he had. And I remember him getting into it with people in the crowd. And I went back and we looked at the archives, and we didn't actually have any footage of him, doing this because we weren't, we were at the Freedom Square is pretty big. So, this was stuff that was going on in a different area. We were looking at people and talking to people that were right in front of us, very dense. But I do remember seeing this guy and seeing him have an altercation. Now, that must be, I've looked at that video where they're screaming Fed, Fed, Fed at him, to see if you can see me. And I was with a camera guy who were there that day, but you can't really see us in the background. It's dark, etc. But obviously, there were a lot of people out on January 5th. The question on everyone's mind is, if this guy traveled across state lines, right? Which I know, we're not talking about Kyle Rittenhouse. We're talking about what? The Riot Act. The Riot Act literally states, and this was my response to Congressman Kinzinger last week, that if you cross state lines with the intent to foment or incite a riot, that you have broken federal law. That is the point of the Riot Act. That's where we get the phrase, reading the Riot Act, read him the Riot Act. So my question then is, for the DOJ, for the FBI, for everyone who's involved in this, why is it that people who've been walking around peacefully, people who are protesting, people who committed no violence whatsoever, have been arrested in this, or accused of committing violence when there's no evidence of it? You'll go after them, but you got a guy here who very, very directly seems like he's instigating violence. He's also, by the way, specifically urging people even 24 hours prior to go into the Capitol. And yet he gets away with just an interview. And, don't worry about it. He didn't do anything wrong. Explain it, make it make sense. What's the line? Make it make sense. Break it down for me, explain it to me like I'm 5. Why is it that Ray Epps gets a pass? And did he, as we know, by the way, that many Oath Keepers had connections with federal informants and federal agents, did he potentially have any of these connections as well? We need to see a transcript, and this testimony on Friday ought to be in public. We know it won't be. So this story came across my desk today and just really was something that I said, I got to get this out there. People need to hear this because this is one of those ones where, it's something normally that people, they think about and they question. And it's on everyone's mind, and yet you never hear one of the quote-unquote experts actually admit it. One of them did. Unheard.com, the headline is, Israeli vaccine chief, we have made mistakes. The cathartic response that you get from hearing just one of them admit that mistakes were made, that things could have been done better. Professor Cyril Cohen talks herd immunity and his pandemic regrets. Listen to this, just an incredible, absolutely incredible. Freddie Sayers got the interview on this, unheard.com. Listen to a snippet of it.
That vaccine passports should be got rid of, phased out, because they're no longer relevant in the Omicron era. I tend to think so. And that's also something else. This is, we have to look at the future. We need better vaccines to prevent transmission. I mean, I'm all for a nasal vaccine, for example, that would be able to better mimic the immunity that we get from the disease. And we know, even if the Omicron actually is causing a lot of not breakthrough infection, but reinfections, people that were vaccinated and, secondary infections, et cetera, we have to take into account that still the virus is better at immunizing than the vaccine.
And the stuff coming out of this is just incredible. So Professor Cohen is head of immunology at Bar-Ilan University and a member of the advisory committee for vaccines for the Israeli government. In the forthright interview, and it is a forthright interview, he admits the Green Pass vaccine passport concept is no longer relevant in the Omicron era and should be phased out. What does that mean? Vaccine passports are irrelevant under Omicron and they should be phased out. No big deal. He and his colleagues were surprised and disappointed that vaccines did not prevent transmission as they had originally hoped. The biggest mistake of the pandemic in Israel was closing schools and education. He apologized for it. Widespread infection is now an inevitable part of future immunity, otherwise known as herd immunity. Omicron has accelerated the pandemic into an endemic phase in which COVID will be like the flu. It will be just another one of those things that's out there. It'll become seasonal. It'll be something that you can catch, but you can deal with if you have a strong immune system or if you have immunity from antibodies. Some of the key quotes, and this one just I mean, I don't even know if we can say this. I don't even know if we can say this. But I want to be very clear. I am quoting from Professor Cohen of Bar-Ilan University, who is an advisor to the Israeli government, professor of immunology. With Omicron, where we don't see virtually any difference, there is a very narrow gap between people vaccinated and non-vaccinated. Both can get infected with the virus more or less at the same pass. Herd immunity is a consequence for me. It's not an objective, it's not a goal. There is a thin nuance here, if I may say, that people have to grasp. I'm not saying people should go and get affected. I don't think that this is a model that we need to adopt. What he's saying is that herd immunity is now inevitable, which a lot of people had said early on. And then finally, you have to understand that the Green Pass is not necessary and that it's not a secret. It's not necessarily, this is incredible. The Green Pass was not necessarily to prevent transmission, that the vaccine passports were to encourage people to get vaccinated. It was a coercive measure. So he's admitting that the vaccine passports were not done. I'm here in Washington, D.C., where there is a vaccine passport mandate regime in place. I am unvaccinated, yet I've had COVID, so I have immunity. So I can't go out right now in D.C. to any of these places. And he's saying right there, it's a coercive method. It has nothing to do with stopping the spread. Chairman Xi Jinping is about to be named chairman for life of the CCP, the ruling party, the regime of China. You know, it's interesting because in the United States and in the West writ large, we have a ruling class, but we don't have a name for it, right? You know, so there's just this sort of ruling class, administrative class, establishment. There's many different terms for it, but there's no definitive body that we can directly point to and say, well, that's a member of the ruling class. But in China, they don't have that problem. In China, they have the CCP, because you can see them right there. There they are. They're the CCP. If you're a party member, you're a member of the party, you're in. We have the same situation in the U.S., but we don't like to talk about it. I digress. Prior to Xi Jinping, the last several chairmen of the party, Jiang Zemin, Hu Jintao, both served 2 terms. One 10-year term each. What does this mean? Xi Jinping, who came to power in 2012, his 10-year term would be coming up this year. But that's not happening, is it? No. He hasn't named a successor yet, which he should have at the last party conference, the 19th Party Congress. This is these big conferences that are held by the CCP. And so 2 years ago, should have named a successor, didn't. This time around, They are going to make a change, and they are going to name him chairman for life. These upcoming Olympics are a coronation for Xi Jinping. And why shouldn't they be? He has ridden all of this to his success. Listen to Xi Jinping at Davos, the World Economic Forum, with Klaus Schwab just this week.
We now welcome His Excellency Xi Jinping, President of the People's Republic of China.
尊敬的施瓦布主席
Professor Klaus Schwab, ladies and gentlemen, friends, greetings to you all. It is my pleasure to attend this virtual session of the World Economic Forum. In 2 weeks' time, China will celebrate the advent of spring in the Lunar New Year, the Year of the Tiger. In Chinese culture, tiger symbolizes bravery and strength. As the Chinese people often refer to spirited dragon and dynamic tiger, or soaring dragon and leaping tiger. To meet the severe challenges facing humanity, we must add wings to the tiger and act with the courage and strength of the tiger.
Now, there is factional infighting within China, even within the party itself, within the CCP itself. You have two major factions right now, Xi Jinping's faction and Jiang Zemin's faction. Jiang Zemin, the previous chairman prior to Hu Jintao. And Jiang Zemin, he was one of the technocrats, right? He was a technocrat in the mold. He was directly appointed, right, directly chosen as the successor to Deng Xiaoping. Deng Xiaoping was the one who said we need to move away from economic communism and move to more of a mold of a model of state capitalism. And that's what they have now. So it's state-controlled capitalism, CCP-controlled capitalism is what China has. I saw somebody once mention it. They said it's like, some days it feels like you're in the United States, and some days you're like on Wall Street, and some days it feels like you're in North Korea. That's the reality of the People's Republic of China right now. And so Jiang Zemin and the rivals and the factions are trying to turn up the heat, and they're publishing all sorts of op-eds out there saying we need stability, we can't go along with this plan, we can't have anything. But Xi Jinping is 10 steps ahead of all of them. And here's why. They didn't call out Xi Jinping and his leadership of the party vis-a-vis the COVID-19 outbreak, the Wuhan lab. Xi Jinping rode that to victory over Jiang Zemin's faction. And mark my words, this November, Xi Jinping will win. His anti-corruption campaign locking up his opponents will win, and he will be declared chairman for the rest of his life of the CCP. Ladies and gentlemen, another action-packed episode of Human Events Daily, and that is why you turn in here for your daily briefing every single day. Remember, our motto to you, be good, be brief, be gone. We are going to give you this high-level news, analysis, information that you need in less time than anybody else out there. I guarantee it. But remember, our homework for each of you, leave us your 5-star review and then go and share this with one of your normie friends. Be the influence agent. Go out there and say, hey, you know, there was a great story I caught, Human Events. He had this awesome take on Ukraine, what's going on with the Biden White House, this other thing on the CCP, the Olympics, what's going on over there, really interesting. You should probably check that one out. Before I go, today's moment of history. January 19th, 1983, the Butcher of Leon was arrested in Bolivia. Former Gestapo official Klaus Barbie, responsible for deporting Jewish children from Leon to Auschwitz. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, you have my permission to lay ashore. Well, that's it for us, Human Events Daily, coming to you live from inside the regime zone of the National Capital Region. Now turning it over to the free state of Arizona, as Turning Point Live continues on the couch. Take it away, John.
Appreciate it, Jack. Well, hey there. Welcome to Turning Point USA HQ in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm your host, Jon Root, and this is TPUSA Live. Here's the rundown. First, CNN is creating a misinformation team and more in the daily briefing. Next, COVID updates, including a shocking poll revealing how leftists feel about imprisoning the unvaccinated. Then we show you some of the weirdest, wackiest, wildest, and wokest content we found on the internet this week in the newest installment of What in the World Wednesday. And finally, Quarantine Mary Jail, followed by a reaction to President Biden's press conference and one last thing. Buckle up. Here we go. TPUSA Live from HQ starts now.
Authentic, unfiltered, grassroots content and conversation every weekday. Live from Phoenix, Arizona at the Turning Point USA headquarters, this is TPUSA Live.
Once again, welcome to TPUSA Live in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona at TPUSA HQ. We got the boys.
Boys Club.
Yes, indeed.
Plus Isabel.
Right.
Let's
Beautiful
go.
mustache.
Welcome to the Boys Club, Isabel
Hey,
Brown.
it's 2022. I could like bro out with you guys. You know what I mean?
Don't mansplain to me what you can
right
do.
there. That was manspreading.
Incredibly sexist of you. You don't know.
We got Jobob
Okay?
and MAGA Hulk Stephen Davis as well. But man, this is a true honor to have you here.
It's Bros Day. Really excited about it. It's bro out.
There's not a lot of people that get invited to the Boys Club.
No, I feel very honored.
don't
I've
think she
been
was
working
invited.
on my frat bro
She just showed up.
accent. I'm very excited about it. So, let's go, bros.
All
right, so we got like a bunch of stuff to go over in the daily briefing. So first one here is CNN, like I mentioned, is creating a misinformation team. And it sounds like basically they're getting a call from inside the house. You know, that's what it seems like. They probably got to be checking themselves. But we learned about this when managing editor of CNN, Alex Kopelman, tweeted out yesterday. We're going to show that on the screen, that they're looking for people interested in this. So it says, hello, Twitter. Some very exciting media jobs to tell you about. I'm hiring 3 people for a new CNN team dedicated to covering misinformation. Thread about the team/jobs start here. Please feel free to share far and wide. And if you're interested, reach out or apply at the links. It's probably good they're doing this because they need to get fact checked.
Well, I don't know if it's good or bad that they're doing this, John. The truth is nobody cares, okay? Because nobody watches CNN or mainstream media. I hate to alert the presses about this, but 90% of CNN's audience was lost in 2021 because people aren't watching corporate media that's driven by ratings rather than current events these days. You know what people are watching? Live stream content. Look at what's happening right now as we're speaking. 50,000 people are watching a live stream with Hassan Piker and Christian Walker on Twitch right now in this very moment because they're having unfiltered conversation about current events, about what's going on in the world. They're not feeding them talking points and weird leftist garbage lies. So misinformation, okay, I guess I'm glad you're investigating that, but no one cares, CNN.
Here's my question. Do we actually believe that that's happening, or is this some sort of undercover publicity stunt to remind people,
Interesting.
oh yeah, CNN exists? Because now we're talking about it, and like most people watching this would probably, oh yeah, I forgot about CNN. If I were a publicist, I think this is what I would do.
Maybe it's a way to deflect from all the weird pedophile stories coming out from CNN.
We won't forget. We won't forget. We're always going to remind people about what's going on there. But they're trying to push CNN Plus right now, too. And they just
Another streaming service.
Well,
Okay.
didn't this come off the heels of President Biden saying that they need to be more, the social media companies and media apparatuses need to be checking the misinformation and all this sort of type of foolishness? I'm over it. I'm over the whole misinformation type of stuff. I mean, whatever's misinformation when it comes to the left and when it comes to CNN is whatever Fauci deems as misinformation, whatever, the bureaucrats, whatever they say is misinformation. That's all it is. At the end of the day, I'm not impressed.
Yeah, especially when you have a show called Reliable Sources that really isn't reliable, Brian Stelter.
Sad. Sad.
Good times.
Man, sometimes I
Good
need it.
times.
We are pretty unfiltered, but I was going to say something about his smile, but I'll move on.
Get on.
But we were talking about it yesterday. We talked briefly about the 5G that's being rolled out by Verizon and AT&T, not about the 5G that's in the vaccines or something. Not all that crazy talk. No, we're talking about actually legitimate.
Just kidding.
There it is. Shannon, come get me. But they were releasing the internet service and 5G for AT&T and Verizon, talking about how that could affect airlines. And that was being rolled out today, and saying how that could affect the supply chain as well, if they're going to start grounding flights, because it's basically messing with the radar and everything. So, but it looks like what's been done is the trade group representing U.S. Airlines said they averted a catastrophic disaster that could have happened. They worked with Secretary Buttigieg and the Biden administration, make sure this is done. At least that's what they're saying. So we're not seeing any more disruptions into the supply chain or grounded flights as of today.
Call me crazy, I think this is all fake. I think it's all deflection, that they have workers on strike over the crazy COVID rules and they're not showing up to work. They're blaming this on weather and 5G, which I don't know about you, I'm a Verizon customer. I've had 5G for a long time. This has been a long time coming. So it feels to me like we would have had time to prepare for such a disaster. Seems a little weird to me.
Final take real quick.
The day before this thing rolls out, that's when we're going to sound the alarm. Give me a break.
Sounds like misinformation.
Oh!
Did they already hire those 3 people?
Not yet. They need to hurry.
Right here. Coming up next, we got some COVID updates for you. We'll see you in 90 seconds.
Good Ranchers, straight from the American farm. 100% American meat, 100% of the time. Delivered straight to your door.
Wait, are those my Good Rancher steaks? I'll be taking these.
Claim your 10 free bistro fillets with your next order with promo code TPUSA Live at goodranchers.com.
A few weeks ago, Dr. Zelenko joined us on TPUSA Live to talk about his experience as a doctor in New York during the pandemic. We learned some more information about COVID-19 treatments and what could have been done better. Dr. Zelenko wants to remind you all that his vitamin supplement Z-Stack supports and promotes a healthy immune system and lifestyle. Plus, it's made in the USA. Get yours today at zstacklife.com/TPUSA. Again, that's zstacklife.com/TPUSA. Once again, we are back here at TPUSA HQ with these incredible contributors, Jobob, MAGA Hulk Stephen Davis, and Isabel Brown.
So happy to be here.
Let's go. We got some COVID updates for you, because Lord knows you haven't heard enough about COVID,
Of course
right?
not.
Have you heard of that thing?
What is
The
that?
what now?
The COVID, the Comicron.
No, I haven't.
The Comicron. Yeah, it's really big right now. It's trendy. It's on TikTok.
So trendy.
Yeah.
Actually, it's making way for the new trend of flu-rona, apparently, which is really vibing in Israel right now.
Man. But there was a study that came out today, and what is insane is, like, day after day, we see more information come out from the CDC or health experts that are talking about things we talked about almost 2 years ago that were conspiracy theories. And then now this came out today. The CDC released a study showing that natural immunity from prior infection granted stronger levels of protection against the Delta variant of COVID-19 than vaccination alone.
No.
Raise your hand if you got natural immunity from the Delta variant.
That's my superpower.
What if you don't know? Because, I don't know, I probably have had it at some point, I'm assuming.
I think I forgot my tinfoil hat offset from when we were talking about this months ago. And it was a conspiracy theory.
You look so amused.
Just a thought.
More misinformation.
Yeah.
Misinformation.
Hashtag
And then, I mean,
Fantastic.
It doesn't surprise you
No.
at all, and it shouldn't, because, I mean, but you still have the President of the United States that's saying this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated, but where's the misinformation team from CNN on that?
Fact checkers.
Like, that was immediately after you had Dr. Malone, Dr. McCullough, and that was just resurfacing again, that conversation of here's how we should have treated this, here's the early treatment. I know we had Dr. Zelenko on too, said, hey, this is what I was doing in places like New York. I was holding the line. I was providing people these early treatments, not sending them home to sit on their butt or lay in their bed for 7 to 10 days, and then hopefully you're going to be all right, and then come back to the hospital if things go
5
haywire.
now.
Yeah, five.
Update. It changes every day. So
Isn't it interesting? Because, John, we had talked about the NCAA rolling their rules into, okay, so if you've had it, you're now considered fully vaccinated. It's the same thing. If you have natural immunity, you have the fully vaccinated status. Isn't it interesting how the CDC is following now the steps of private entities who are going, we've had enough with this, and the CDC is now, all right, we can't hold on that much longer. I guess we need to update our thinking.
So I think that there's two strategies going on at the exact same time from the CDC. I think number one, they're trying to hold on, even though they realize that they're losing people. So they're just trying to put out whatever scare tactics are possible to get people to keep doing this stuff. I don't know if you guys saw the story, my bros, on Twitter that was trending these last couple of days, but they're now saying that a side effect of COVID for men is extreme pain in your penis. So that's the new reason to hurry up and get vaccinated so that you don't experience this super weird, very rare side effect from COVID-19. Insane. But I think at the same time, they're realizing they're losing people, and so they're trying to keep up with that trend as well, which is so interesting. I think when we think vaccinated, that word to us automatically means an injection, but that's not necessarily true from a scientific perspective. To be vaccinated means you have some sort of immunity, either injected or otherwise, against something that you've been exposed to. And so to see that definition go back to the way it has been in the scientific community is a really interesting plot twist that I was not expecting this month.
Biology degree over there.
Boom, mic drop. Boom.
Yeah, one of the boys.
Boys. Let's go.
Do it for the boys. But this data that we got to show you, there's a crazy poll that came out. This is conducted by Rasmussen Reports, and the Heartland Institute said liberals were more than twice as likely as other voters to favor harsh government restrictions being placed on unvaccinated people's lives. So here's some more specifics for you. 48% of left-leaning voters said that the government should be able to fine or imprison those who publicly question the COVID-19 vaccine's efficacy.
What a terrible liberal you are. Ask liberals in the 70s, hey, did you know that liberals in 2022 are going to be wanting to jail and prison people who question authority? What kind of liberal is that?
Well, welcome to your Orwellian dystopian future where citizens are put against other citizens and the government is daddy, all right, and we're all supposed to adhere to the government.
But daddy in the bad way.
Yes, indeed. That's true. That's very true.
This is daddy issues.
Daddy issues. Daddy issues for sure.
Well, you ready for the gulag, boys?
Let's get it in. Let's get it done.
I think that honestly the data from this is just not worded correctly, because this is not a liberal stance to take. You're exactly right, Jobob. To be classically liberal means to embrace individual rights and autonomy over your own life and to stick it to the government. Literally, that's what the phrase was back then when our parents were young. And so it's interesting to me that we're calling this data from liberal voters. I think it's much more apt to say that these are leftists saying that it's time to imprison Americans.
Yeah, and especially too when it comes to right-leaning. I guess they would say, like, you don't know how far right, but I wouldn't be calling this, what I'm about to tell you, a conservative stance. But like right-leaning voters said that they favored, 19% of them said they favored fines against those who refuse to take the vaccine.
Fun.
When do you think this changed? When do you think the dynamic changed that liberals all of a sudden say, no, believe the CDC, the FBI, the CIA, all of them are totally credible. We have to believe everything they say.
Well, that's why I think this has been built up for generations, trust. That obviously we know the government's been pulling shady business for a long time, but to this mass scale, I don't think anybody, including me, I think I was a little bit naive to it that this could be done at this grand scale. And I think that's because so many people have been trusting, and it's like parents instilling that in kids, and then you get to this point where it's like, for so long, you trusted your parents, and then you trusted the school teachers, and then you trusted the people that were on the school board, and then you trusted some local politicians a little bit, and then now it got to this point where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm being blatantly taken advantage of, and you got to be pessimistic now. Like,
I don't even think it's about pessimism. I think it's about realism and just looking around at what's happening in the world. The other thing is that longstanding trust is important, but this just all goes to show you this has all happened in a span of 24 months, roughly. This is 2 years of our lives. It shows you how powerful fear is as a human emotion, and when you manipulate that to take advantage of people and their liberty and autonomy, it's a very effective tool to institute authoritarianism. People get afraid when you tell them to be afraid, and you show them all these case numbers and the death rate, and it's constantly a ticking clock that you see on the news that you're expected to have on 24 hours a day, hearing from the same experts over and over again who change their mind every 24 hours. People don't know where to look for truth, for trusting sources, and where they can really lay a foundation for the future. So when the future is a giant question mark and you don't know what that's going to look like, and you're constantly in fear for your own life, it's easy to take advantage of that from a government perspective.
Well, we were talking upstairs too about they're sending out millions and millions of tests. And possibly, maybe, if I were to put my little tin hat on, maybe that's the government trying to provide more cases by putting out more tests, therefore, in fact, having more cases and keeping people scared, because my power comes from your fear.
Well, if you can do all that testing, you can definitely send out monoclonal antibodies.
Why not? No, that's impople. There's no way we can do that. That is impossible. Get out of here, Joe Rogan.
Sorry. You're not a doctor, Joe Rogan.
Remember we used to ask that question pre-pandemic. How in the world did Nazi Germany happen? How? How did you get to the point where citizens are hating one another? We always used to ask those questions. And now we have the answer. Because what's going on, these numbers are scary. If there's people out there who are not concerned with what these numbers are saying about the American people at this point in time, and the United States of America, then I really don't know what else to tell you at this point. You need to open your eyes all the way.
We're not united, though. I believe increasingly every single day we live in two completely different realities in the United States of America, and it's only going to become more polarizing between conservative areas of the country and leftist controlled areas of the country. If you travel to New York City or Washington, D.C., I'm going there tomorrow, you live in a completely different reality, let alone country, than states like Florida and Arizona and Texas and South Dakota. And so it really gets me thinking about what type of environment are you surrounding yourself with? If all you're hearing is this propaganda all the time and you refuse to consider another point of view, it's probably pretty easy for this to be considered the truth and everything else to be considered misinformation or lies. And as a Christian, I believe in the span of human history, eventually we are going to arrive at a time, as we're told in the Bible, that lies become truth and truth becomes the lies. And so I think we're experiencing that in real time right now. We probably have been throughout all of human history after the death of Jesus Christ. But it's so interesting to see that happen in action, and you try to wrap your head around, how can someone possibly fall for this? How is this propaganda so effective? Well, we're imperfect, we're human beings, and we know that eventually that's going to become reality.
And then I think it's gotten to this other sense of entrusting people in power that they will take care of us. So like I go back to a place like San Jose that I lived for just over 5 years, and then I was born in the Bay Area too. I go back and I'm like, it doesn't seem like it's changed in 2 years. Where it almost seems worse. And people are just so coddled and felt like, oh, you know, people like in San Jose, like health can take care of us. They'll tell us that kids as young as 5, in order to go to a San Jose Sharks game, you got to be vaccinated. Or that at some point they'll give us our freedom back. It's like, it's not up to them, it's up to you. This is the land of the free. And it's we the people. It's not them,
the bureaucrats.
The government. It's, I mean, we literally, founding documents of this place were made for times as this. And we are blatantly tossing that to the side and forgetting about that, but also too, it's just not being taught in schools. And then people aren't doing their own research and really understanding those documents and the powers that we have. And then another place too, Melbourne, Australia.
Oh my God.
The state of Victoria, where I have my sister-in-law, her family's from there. And I've talked to people from there. And I've had people respond to some comments I've made about what's going on with Novak's Djokovic. But people are just so caught up in this lie and that this idea that the prime minister and the premier, those people in power out there are going to take care of them. Yeah. And it's like, you were the most locked down place in the entire world. You had the longest lockdown, and you still think these people are going to take care of you? And you're thinking the problem is this one athlete? We're already hearing from the CDC that you have natural immunity is taking care of things a lot better than a vaccine will. Open your eyes, people. Come on.
Well, they're actually saying now that widespread infection and herd immunity, remember that term that was misinformation and never allowed to be spoken of again in science? Yeah. So an important one when it comes to pandemics. That's necessary in order to actually move past this pandemic at any point. So we had a guest on recently that was saying maybe this Omicron variant and how infectious it is with low problems associated with it is the best thing that could have ever possibly happened because so many people are going to achieve natural immunity through this process. We might not need a 12th or 13th or 15th booster of COVID-19, as I'm sure they're already talking about there at the CDC and everywhere else with the powers that be. And maybe we can just move on from this. I'm hopeful for that, but at the same time, I'm not, because so many people are still conditioned to believe that we need to live in this weird nanny state, complete authoritarian control time period. And I worry about what that's going to do for the culture of our country moving forward when you see half of America say, we're done with this, no more, we're completely open, we're not doing this anymore. Live your life, do what you want to do. If you want to wear a mask, great. If you want to get vaxxed, great. But we're not going to tell you what to do. Then you see the other half of America say, literally, show us your papers to go into a restaurant or a grocery store or a pharmacy or a movie theater. That's what I'm facing going to our nation's capital tomorrow, where I used to live. And it just is mind-boggling to me. I don't know how we can keep going in these two directions and stay a cohesive country.
Yeah. Well, logistically, I think it's impossible. Like, I think your super lockdowny states are going to eventually face the reality of, okay, we can't do that and keep our economy running. Yeah. So maybe that's the light at the end of the tunnel. A little bit of optimism is that logistically it just doesn't work. It's not whether or not you agree with COVID policy or agree with lockdowns. It can't last forever. It's just not possible.
No. But do you think some people are just so far down this rabbit hole that they just can't get out, though?
Yeah.
I think that's where some people, they have to be handheld. They have to have people make decisions for them. And I think that's what I see, at least.
Yeah. I don't know how you get out of that.
I don't know what the future looks like. Even on my flight yesterday coming home from Nashville, the pilot made a comment of, if you're under the age of 2, you don't have to wear a mask, lucky, haha. And then 2 minutes later, the flight attendant came on, you must wear your mask in between sips of your water cup. It's like, come on. I mean, I think some people really just are that.
I had a flight attendant on an airline that rhymes with Smouth Smest, who had a mask on, but it was like one of those sheer, like, it was this mesh mask. Fantastic. It didn't do anything, which is just, I don't know, kind of fun. She's abiding by the rules, but also understands that that's not a real thing.
Yeah, and finally, too, I know there was another piece of little information there that they were talking about 45% of leftist voters favored the government forcing people into designated facilities until they get the vaccine. Crazy time. We're talking about What in the World Wednesday next. We'll be back in 90 seconds.
What if I told you that this has all happened before? The riots, violence, church burning, attacks on police, destruction of private property.
My name is Sammy Steigman. I am a Holocaust survivor.
This is the reality of what happens when you have capitalism that goes to socialism.
El socialismo no funciona. El socialismo no funciona.
TPUSA Live is about to be spicy. I mean, would you expect anything less? It's me, Alex Clark. Of course it's going to be spicy. Tune into The Spillover, my brand new podcast. Think of it like the older sister to politics with a lot more conservative.
What's up, guys? My name is Jon Root, and every week I'm breaking down the top stories in sports and bringing you conversations you won't hear anywhere else. It's going to be a great time here on Breakaway. Welcome back to TPUSA Live. Isabel Brown, MAGA Hulk, Stephen Davis, Jobob, your favorite time.
Woo!
What
Yes,
in the world,
indeed.
Wednesday?
I'm leaving.
No, you better sit down. We're going to take this. We're going to take it and
It just
enjoy
really warms my heart that you are so surprised.
It just hurts my brain looking at these things.
We're going to hurt together, okay? We can do this.
Just go. Just
roll tape.
Just go.
Imagine being me. I've been here for every single Wednesday since this started, Jobob, and a piece of me dies inside.
And we're
every
sorry.
Wednesday.
We're sorry. This is a zombie right now. It's a corpse.
But this first one, man, the world that we live in, masks. How many can you put on? How many should you put on? Dr. Fauci, please tell us. This guy just set a new world record, though. Check it out.
Look at him go. Look at him in all of his glory. He's so proud of himself.
That was a Guinness Book World Record for putting on the most amount of masks in the quickest amount of time.
Dr. Fauci would be proud. This is the Faucian Olympics right here. This is so cringe. This is terrible.
That is ridiculous. But also, can we break that? That guy didn't
can
seem
do it.
all that fast. I feel like we could do that.
We can do it. Yeah, we can do it.
I think we would
do
just
that.
be hard pressed to find that many
I don't
masks
know.
in
Yeah.
the
Where do you find
TPUSA
that many
office.
masks?
Well,
but
imagine a
we could do it.
conservative beating them. Imagine a conservative beating a leftist. I'm putting on masks and beat the amount and in the amount of time.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I'm down.
See, it wasn't that bad, Jobob. I mean, that was
We're
just
easing it. What's next?
It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad,
That
but I
was
feel like
tame.
you're setting me up for the next one to be just awful.
This next one is about COVID in the classroom, and I was like, what do I do with my hands? Check it out.
I don't like that at all.
I like this trend a lot, though.
As an Italian-in-law, I find that personally offensive.
You haven't seen this trend, though? So this
No.
started on TikTok
cultural
as things
appropriation.
in my Italian parents'
TikTok
house
trends
that
with
just
Isabel
make
Brown.
sense. I know, there should be a whole segment. This all started with like kids on the East Coast with like old Italian families, and they were like things in my Italian parents' house that just make sense, and they're hilarious Italian things, and so they'll walk around and point it out. Then that got co-opted by things in my Midwestern house that just make sense, like the random bathroom that's themed as the beach, even though you live nowhere near the beach, stuff like that. So I get the trend. It's a cute trend, but an unfortunate adaptation.
When I see this, I think more of just like a chef's kiss, like
Exactly.
something that is just beautiful. None of that is beautiful. None of that is good.
Gloves,
No.
I don't see it.
masks, whatever else. I don't know.
Did that say book
Insanity.
quarantine?
Yeah, I don't know. Did that say book quarantine?
You know
I
what I'm
think
saying?
it
Like,
did.
are
We
we
have to
quarantined?
quarantine the books.
Oh, we have to.
If you don't burn them,
Trust
you
the science.
quarantine them.
If you don't burn them, you got quarantined.
Oh man, this next one is some of the stuff just really isn't funny. It's just odd.
None of it's
And this is more just to make Jobob unbelievably
Yes.
uncomfortable.
Yes.
This is about
Yes.
Keep my eyes open.
this is about another teacher,
hold them
Teacher
open.
Ramirez. Check it out.
So today, one of my students asked me a really funny question. He was like, Teacher Ramirez, are you a boy or a girl? Because I'm confused. And I was dying.
You were dying. I was dying watching that video
I,
inside. So
you know what?
Yes.
I had the same question, and I wondered. And it's an appropriate question. How is a kid wrong for asking that?
they're not, I think. I mean, I don't think most clips that I've seen like this, most people who identify as non-binary, they're not angry when their students or like other people ask them, are you a boy or a girl? They just see it as their like crusade to educate the world that gender is a spectrum. And they think it's like a good thing when people ask them, are you a boy or a girl? Because then they can like fix that question
So
and
they
break the
wanna be
binary or something.
asked if they want to be asked if they're
Yeah,
a boy.
because then they can break the narrative, allegedly, that there's only men and women.
Are we supposed to pretend to be confused by that person's gender? I don't actually
Yes,
know.
I
Is
think
that
you
what,
are.
are we supposed to go,
That's the
wow,
point.
you're non-binary. I never would have guessed that you were born a woman.
And that's
Right?
a compliment.
Are we supposed to like carry on the ruse here?
Okay,
How does that work?
But this
Break
also
it down
turned
for me.
into just microaggressions, though. Like so many of these TikToks that we see, they're just like, I can't believe that they always call me by like she, her, but never they. Why?
Well, I don't think
And then why are you getting so upset?
Most of the time, though, I would say it's not a microaggression. Okay, at least recently, when the whole non-binary movement like blew up on college campuses when I was a college student, they don't get angry. They say that you should just ask, or if you do say the wrong thing, or like maybe you don't assume that maybe they're non-binary and you call them by their obvious gender and their obvious biological association, they just politely correct you. That's like their thing. So the whole thing is like, we're going to break the binary and let the world know that there's more than two genders, and the only way to do that is for people to mess up or people to ask us, and then we can fix it. It's very odd, but that's been my experience.
They're looking to confuse you.
No, they want you to be confused and ask so they can tell you.
Well, the fact that we have to try to decipher this whole thing and try to make sense of it in about like 5 minutes, it just goes to show what in the world is
What in
going
the
on.
world?
Well, and also, it seemed like they were laughing at the kid for not knowing.
Right.
Like,
haha, you don't know.
Stupid kid,
No,
you don't know
what's wrong with you?
what I is, they.
Well, we're only on non-binary. Wait till you ask about all the other things like demisexual and like
that's a
all
real thing,
of the
though.
things.
That's a normal
What
thing.
did Demi say?
Demisexual means you're only attracted to
Demi
some
Lovato.
people, but not all people, which
Demi
is
has
literally
her own
every human
sexuality?
being on Earth.
I'm Jon Root sexual.
Well, speaking of, jeez, sounds pretty hot,
Very
honestly.
specific type right there. Woo!
This next one's about clown pronouns.
Oh, great.
This is Cypress, and Clown mentioned not having people use clown or clown self pronouns for clown, and so in this situation, I would make sure that I exclusively use clown pronouns to talk about Cypress, so Cypress knows that I see clown self for who clown is, and I want clown to be hearing those pronouns more than the other ones out of my mouth.
Hold on. At least clown is admitting they are a clown.
Fair.
Right?
Bada boom,
I
bada
think they're talking
bam,
about somebody
bam.
else.
Huh?
They're talking about somebody else. Somebody like
Oh, they're talking about
they're
something.
talking about
I'm so
alternate
confused.
personality.
about clown.
This is ridiculous. I'm confused. Can someone explain this to me?
It's not supposed to make sense, Stephen.
That's the whole point. My brain is going to explode, okay? This is, I can't quantify
Honestly,
this.
I have to wonder if, because she's responding to a comment,
Okay.
Oh.
so I have to wonder if somebody's just trolling this
See,
person and
we
like.
need a TikTok translator
Th-
here
th-
to let
that's
us
a-
know what's
yes.
happening.
If so,
before-
greatest troll of all time. That's
Okay.
genius to come up with that.
There you go.
So
Interesting.
she was being trolled.
Well, yeah, I mean, people who make fun of this stuff all the time, they say like, "Oh, my pronouns are her/majesty," ha 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 ha. Or there's this whole TikTok trend that says my pronouns are she, the, it, or the, she, it, because I'm the which is funny. But anyway, I think maybe
Live,
someone was just
unfiltered,
trolling.
conservative content, Monday through Friday.
I don't get that one. Can you explain it?
What?
Can you break it down further, please?
This next one's about COVID jewelry. Swag. Huh.
What is that?
So yeah,
I'm
that
confused.
is that's a positive test or a negative test or some sort of test.
Okay.
For
wait, no, that's a negative test.
With rhinestones on it.
Does she take it every day? Oh, sorry. Do they?
Wow,
do they
very
take it
them.
aggressive.
every
Yes.
single day? I think
love
that
it.
has to
Zeezer.
be- Zizim.
I am so upset.
zoom, 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 zoom. My good, could you imagine that? It's like, yeah, you know, so I met this girl online, and then yeah, we went out to dinner, and her earrings. She had a negative COVID test.
Maybe she's
hanging
just
from
trying
her
to
ear.
tell people that she doesn't have COVID. Like, hey, you can stand 6 feet.
And maybe
within
she's a
6
clown
feet.
too.
Sorry, I don't want to assume.
But did they take a test? I don't know. I hate Wednesdays. Why do I agree to come here on Wednesdays?
See, now I understand why you want to leave. I understand. Next time I'm going with you, okay?
I
Let's go.
love
Yeah.
how much this just you are in so much agony every Wednesday. This last one for Jobob. My goodness, kids with masks. Check it out.
Okay.
What's
This is
happening
like
here?
this is literally a teacher taping a mask to
Is
a
that
kid's
tape?
Don't
face.
you dare. Don't you dare do
That's the world that we live in.
At what
If I was that parent, I would pull my kid out
You
of the
understand me?
so quick.
There'd be some smoke in the city.
At what point is that actually child abuse? Like, I
Thank you.
don't know.
But coming up
because there has
next,
to be a
we
line.
are talking about quarantine Mary jail. That
Woo!
teacher straight to jail.
Right
See
to
you in
jail,
90
right
seconds.
away.
Good ranchers, straight from the American farm. 100% American meat, 100% of the time.
Welcome back to TPUSA Live. We cut that commercial off just in the nick of time because I think there's some people that are a little bit offended.
By
When
you
slap
slapping
a
the beef?
steak. Yeah.
Yeah. How are you supposed to tenderize it without doing that?
You didn't have to do it so seductively, though.
It was just this like.
Hey, live unfiltered content.
Hey, tell you what, get your free bistro sticks. TPUSA Live. MAGA Hulk, Stephen Davis, Jobob, Isabel Brown. We were playing one of our favorite games, Quarantine, Mary, Jail.
Let's.
You've heard the other version, but this one here is a lot more fun here on TPUSA Live. And we're gonna start with Isabel Brown.
Oh boy.
Here.
All right.
And then we're
let's
gonna go around the horn. This first trio we got for you, Quarantine, Mary, Jail. Chairman Kim Jong-un, Kathy Griffin, and Conor McGregor.
Oh boy.
Quarantine, Mary, Jail.
Okay. Marry Conor McGregor.
Good call.
Because that'd be a great life. Number 2, kill Kathy Griffin. Number 3, I would quarantine with Kim Jong-un because if I was quarantining with the supreme leader, I would be taken very well care of. I would have everything at my disposal. It'd be great. And I could just learn more about how horribly corrupt the whole system is in North Korea and try to topple it from the inside out. It'd be like The Interview, but like more fun because I'd have more time.
So instead of sending the supreme leader, dictator of North Korea, freeing millions of people across the country, she decides to send Kathy Griffin to jail. Interesting concept.
Very interesting.
It's very questionable.
Very
questionable.
Who
Questionable
are you
decision.
even more? Who are you?
It'd be fun.
I care
we
about.
invited you to the Boys
Boys
Club,
Club.
for one day, and then you pulled
I'm sorry, you wouldn't want to recreate The Interview? Is that what the Boys Club is telling me? That that's
No, I would
not
take
something
it
you
out
would
of
want to
power
do?
and set
But you
free
could do that
millions of
afterwards
street
by
cred
learning
I
how
would
to do
get.
it 2 birds, 1 stone. That's all I'm saying.
You know how much street cred I would get if I took out Kim Jong-un?
Well, you can do that while you're in quarantine.
I don't think
And
that's how
learn
this
all the
works.
secrets of like who's next in line, because if you just take him out,
But what if
then
he
there's
eats all
no.
your
You see what I'm saying?
These boys, they're
done.
thinking small brain. Okay, we need to think big
All right, boys,
brain.
you guys are up. Quarantine, Mary, Jail. You got Kim Jong-un, Kathy
Oh, I
Griffin,
get to answer
Conor
this
McGregor.
one?
Everybody does.
Well, because I love Korean people, I'm going to send Kim Jong-un straight to jail.
Yes,
I'm
and
gonna call my aunt from Korea, and we're gonna.
I don't
hash
know.
this
We might
out.
need to get HR.
I'm probably
in here.
going to marry Conor McGregor also
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
the
Good
money.
life. Yeah, it's a great
Yeah,
life.
the money thing.
Like, that's actually the chef's kiss. there.
I gotta spend quarantine with Kathy Lee Griffin.
See, that sounds horrible. I wouldn't do that.
Jobob's severed head.
That's horrible.
That was funny.
Rip. Literally.
I married Kathy Griffin.
Really?
What's up?
Why?
Continue.
Well, I mean,
Do you want your wedding
it's the only-
photos to
it's the
have a
only-
severed head in them?
Which would be interesting. Which would be interesting.
How does she hold it up
That's a good one.
without the hair?
Oh,
She's like the female
that's
King
a good
Herod.
point. See, then I did it right.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, Mary Catherine Griffin. Quarantine with Conor McGregor. I could spar with him all day.
I think he.
Let's go.
He
See,
weighs
you guys,
about
that
as
would
much
be
as
cool.
one man.
I would not enjoy that.
Unlimited whiskey too.
If I drank.
Proper 12.
Yes, indeed. And then, of course, like I said, get my street credibility up, kill Kim Jong-un.
See, but you can do that after you quarantine with him. It's a whole thing.
The game is jail. We're not killing anybody.
Yeah, the game is jail.
My bad.
Who are the next 3 people?
In jail.
Well, we don't award points, but if I did, Isabel gets 0 for the first round.
0 points.
It's rigged.
This next one
Because
here.
I only identify as a man.
we got
so rigged.
Kanye West, Pete Davidson, Megan Fox. Quarantine,
Oh my gosh.
marry, jail. We are starting with Jobob.
I'm marrying Kanye. He has more money than all of them by a lot. I think he's a billionaire, isn't he? Right?
I
do believe
I love
so.
how
I'll look it up.
every single time we do quarantine, marry, jail, Jobob's always just
I have
like,
one
how
piece
much
of
money they got?
criteria.
He's a gold digger.
Yes.
Kanye is worth
Oh, yeah.
But
1.8
didn't
billion
Kanye
US
did,
dollars. That's his net worth.
Then I'm marrying Kanye without really even a
Is
question.
he really worth almost $2 billion?
Yes.
You are indeed a gold digger. He made a song about you, you know.
Yeah, and I'm fully accepting of that role. And then I'd probably, I don't know, I don't care what the rest of them. They can, I have Kanye.
You got
I don't
Megan
need
Fox
anything
and
else.
Pete Davidson.
I'd probably quarantine with Megan Fox. For conversational purposes. I don't know, ask her
So
about
what's
her
going on with your thumb?
And then Pete Davidson, whatever.
Jail? Right
Yeah.
to jail.
Marry Megan Fox.
Nope.
Just not look at her thumbs. Ever.
So now you got to continue working.
I feel like we got to find a
I
photo
mean, Megan
of
Fox is probably
Megan
worth quite a
Fox's
bit of money.
thumb.
I'm on it.
She probably.
Fact checker.
See?
All right.
See? But I'm not a gold digger like you, okay?
That's your own problem.
I would quarantine with Kanye.
She's worth $8 million.
And definitely
so it's
jail.
nothing.
Pete Davidson.
Davidson.
Yeah.
I too
Definitely.
would jail Pete Davidson,
Boom.
but first I would want to ask him what the heck is up with him dating all these incredibly hot women. Like
Ask
it does
Alex
not
Clark.
make
Oh,
sense.
man, I am
like
not asking Alex
fundamentally,
about it again.
scientifically, it does not make sense.
Only
So
because of
since
the
you're
money.
with the
But
boys,
he's not even that
no.
wealthy. Like
Since
that,
you're with
like,
the
boys.
he is,
Really?
like, but he's not like 1.8 billion.
But
Like,
he's famous, though.
nah,
but the other women that he's dating are also rich and famous, so that
Very
doesn't
true.
make sense.
He looks
Very
like
true.
Alex Clark.
He looks
Ask
like
Alex Clark.
Beetlejuice,
It
and
doesn't make sense.
we're not going to
So, there's
talk
that.
about footwear anymore.
I would marry Kanye because I want the really cool ranch in Cody, Wyoming. And
And
I
$1.8
would
billion.
quarantine with Megan Fox.
Ooh, this next one, we're getting a little political.
Oh.
I don't like that at all.
Politicians here. VP Mike Pence, President Obama, President George H.W.
We're
Bush.
assuming he's alive.
What was
I take it.
former President Obama's Netflix deal? Like $100 million, right? Yeah, so I'm going to marry him. Seriously.
And then, who are you going to quarantine? Who are you going to jail? You got
I
Mike
feel
Pence
like-
and then George H.W. Bush.
I feel like
he's
President-
alive now. He's resurrected for this.
I feel like President George H.W. Bush would be cool to hang out with. Vice President Mike Pence, don't have any problem with him. I feel like I'd get bored. So, sorry.
He's going to jail.
Unfortunately.
Rip.
Wow.
Yeah. It's jail. He's not dead.
There's probably
that
so many
still
people in the comments
sucks.
right now. I can't believe
I would marry Mike
you would
Pence.
do that.
I've
He's such
45
an
sidekick.
honorable man. I used to work in that White House. He's a great human being. Okay,
Oh, I
he's
don't doubt
wonderful.
that at all.
I could live
Not
a very
as bad
happy
as
life that way.
quarantining with Kim Jong Un, though.
2 birds, 1 stone. People, back me up in the comments, please.
All right, Isabel Brown, you got Mike Pence.
Yeah,
President Obama.
I'd marry Mike Pence. I would retroactively jail President Obama over Benghazi, and I
you
would
could retroactively
quarantine.
jail.
If I had unlimited power to marry or whatever these people, I'm gonna do whatever I want. And I would quarantine with HW, and we would play with all of their adorable dogs because I'm assuming all of them are still alive in this scenario as well.
Oh, yes, he is resurrected.
fact,
The dogs are resurrected.
George H.W. Bush, when he was president in the White House, his dog had puppies. And then later, when his son became president, one of those puppies was the first dog.
I don't care about that at all.
Great story.
The dog days are not over. What do you got? What do you got, Steven? Mike Pence, President Obama, George H.W. Bush.
I think I would have to marry Pence, because he's pretty fly for a white guy.
I'd marry Pence.
For those who understand the joke.
Solid humor
Yes,
right there. That's
indeed.
very good.
Come on,
That was very
boom,
good, yeah.
boom.
It's been decided.
It's been decided.
The council
What
has
a couple.
spoken.
Mike
What a
Pence
lovely
and MAGA
couple.
Hulk.
Yes, indeed. Wow.
I'd break the
Especially for
internet.
how,
I'm gonna Photoshop that later.
especially how angry people get about the way Mike Pence feels about gay rights.
I feel like it will be a very hands-off marriage.
A marriage of convenience,
A very,
perhaps.
yes, very convenient.
Of imagery.
Enough
of
about you
optics.
Chuck and Larry situation
Yes,
here.
indeed. Ibony and every. I can't speak right now. Ibony.
Nice.
I can't.
Ivory.
That's okay. We won't air this
There
during
you
the
go,
live
there you
show.
go.
Lord
It's
have
all right.
mercy.
We've all been there.
It's all right. We'll give you a quick break, Stephen.
All right,
Thank
who's
you.
next?
It's all right. Well, I'm glad you're happily married, though.
Yeah.
I
Congratulations.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry I didn't give you anything from the registry.
I expect all the gifts.
This next one, I got a little conservatorship action. Jamie Lynn Spears, aka Senator Ted Cruz.
I have no idea.
I know. Shocking, right? Holy cow.
And then you got Channing Tatum and Britney Spears.
Now, when you say Jamie Lynn Spears, are we talking about her little sister
Yes.
or the dad?
Zoe 101.
Oh, Zoe 101. I think Britney Spears probably has more money, so I'm gonna go with her.
You're going to
Being
marry her?
married to-
Marry Britney Spears.
Yeah. Actually, that seems like a terrible.
Actually, everybody
decision.
say who you're going to marry. Who are you going to marry? out
Channing
of those
Tatum,
two? Channing Tatum.
obviously. Look at
The
the,
sister.
man.
I need the net worth of these people. I think Britney Spears.
Jobob has
He's
one
really going after that
priority
money.
for this
Dollar
game.
bills, y'all.
He's ready.
This is a magical relationship, so I can have whatever criteria I want.
Channing Tatum, for sure.
Yeah, she gets Magic Mike. So where's Magic Mike on your list? He's going to jail or is you
Oh,
quarantined?
I'm quarantined with. I am learning all of the dance moves.
Oh,
I agree.
all right.
You're going to stomp the yard for a good year.
Absolutely. He was in Stomp the Yard?
I don't think he was.
No, not stomp the yard. What?
Magic Mike is my favorite role of his.
Yeah.
I would quarantine with Britney Spears because I would want to know all of the behind-the-scenes crazy tea from this crazy legal battle. And then I would jail Jamie Lynn Spears because it really disturbs me now that I've seen it side by side how freakishly similar her face and Ted Cruz's face are.
And Ted
It's
Cruz
going
actually
viral on the internet
That's
today,
wrong.
and it's scary. Like, it is. Maybe
Actually,
we should ask the
it
control
is.
room to put this
Yeah.
up if you guys have it. I mean, it is.
It's
eerie.
uncanny.
It's wild.
It's uncanny.
Yeah, it's out of control. But if you want to find that, I know Poplitics posted.
I think
that
they did.
photo.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
I
posted
think
it today.
even Dave Portnoy quote tweeted one of those photos, and then Senator Ted Cruz was like, "Yeah, I could see it." It's just like
Pretty legit.
because
Pretty legit.
I think that's more on Jamie Lynn Spears than Senator Ted Cruz being weirded out.
Maybe he could go back in time and be on Zoe 101 and be the star of it. That would be a plot twist.
What a weird show.
Next,
I mean, we've already gone through enough. This next one, though, we got one of the Clintons in it.
Oh, boy.
Former
Oh,
President
goodness.
Bill Clinton, and then the birthday girl today, Dolly Parton, and then Nicolas Cage. I'm going to steal the Declaration of
Wow.
Independence.
Alex Spencer is going to kill me, but Dolly Parton has so much more money than both of those people
Jobob.
combined.
You are
It's not
the
even close.
iconic capitalist
Dolly
right
Parton,
now.
Yeah,
Dolly
yeah,
Parton
yeah.
wrote so many huge songs. She probably has
She's a legend.
$1 billion. Yeah,
It's
easy.
huge songs and a huge
We'll
head.
look it up.
Yes, yes.
And Dolly World, that too.
Yeah.
That is also huge. Yes.
I don't know. I don't even remember.
650
Nick
million, in
Cage?
case
Yeah.
you're wondering.
Nicolas Cage. I'd hang out with Nick Cage.
Oh, easily.
I would hang out with him too.
Yeah.
Easily. Easily.
And then the other person can go to
Yeah, you got,
True.
well, President Clinton. Right,
Oh, he
Oh
could definitely
no!
go to
Wait
jail.
a minute. Self-preservation tells me I should not send him to jail.
Yeah.
John, who would you do?
Well, I mean, this could get me in trouble.
Oh boy.
That's what I like to hear.
Yes.
Nick Cage, you are now my husband.
That's fair.
Why?
I would.
Why? I need to know
Because
why.
he's in everything.
He is 100% a national treasure. That's like, could you
I see what you
imagine
did there.
stealing the Declaration of Independence?
I mean, Nick Cage is a
Could you imagine
legend.
finding Charlotte?
If you got married
You could
to
just
Nick
hang out with
Cage,
them, though.
would you go buy a pair of those leggings that our friend Alex Spencer has with his face all over them and wear them?
Fantastic.
And then I get the sequence pillow and everything.
Oh,
too.
he's
I
gonna
get
act
the
like he
blanket.
doesn't
Nick Cage
already
pillow.
have those.
Exactly.
I've been to your
exactly.
bedroom. Oh, that sounded weird.
Boys Club.
Well,
when jokes backfire.
Weird.
All right, so then who would you send to jail or quarantine?
I'm gonna get spicy here.
Okay.
I'm gonna send Dolly Parton to jail.
Why?
Really?
I am gonna quarantine with President Bill Clinton because you talk about wanting to sit down. Like, I could only imagine like being able to sit down and interview someone like that, one of the worst people that's involved in some of the most crazy-ish that we've seen in U.S. politics.
That's assuming he talks to you, though. I mean, he might
I
just
would
sit
make
there
him talk.
silently.
Oh.
He might send some people after you.
Do you really think?
I don't think you
really
make it out of there
President
alive.
Bill
I don't
Clinton
think
could take
any
me on?
situation you make it out of that alive.
I don't think
He's got
so.
no help here. Like, we're quarantined together. It is just Bill and
I
John.
don't think you
Mono.
understand how that works, how that entire situation
Oh, that was
operates.
scenario. This is my world. This is my metaverse with
Your
Bill.
truth. We're living in your truth.
There's
not
so
my
many
truth.
Monica
Okay.
Lewinsky jokes that I can't make right now.
I know.
Just know that
Rip.
they're in my head.
All right, who else? Who else we got?
We're going to do this last one here with about a minute left. You got Governor Ron DeSantis,
Oh,
contributor Benny Johnson,
Hey.
and Governor Greg Abbott. Real
Well,
quick,
Marry Ron DeSantis, obviously. It's America's governor.
I don't think
right
any of
there.
them have
Everybody
very
say who
much
you'd-
money
who you'd
relative.
marry.
I don't think any of them are billionaires. So I'm out.
you're not going to marry anyone.
No.
All right,
Single
so
and
Jobob saying
alone.
everybody goes to jail.
Apparently.
What do you
I
got?
think I'll have to marry Benny.
Really?
I mean, he gave me my name, so I'm marrying Benny.
That's a
It's
beautiful
happening.
marriage.
It's a thing.
We have a lot of fun wedding announcements to Photoshop for you today, Steven. This will be great.
It's going to be fantastic is what it's going to be.
Oh man, nothing is as good as former VP Mike Pence. We have to figure out a way to
That's
get you two in a room.
graduation.
This is hilarious. But coming up next in just 3 minutes, we got one last thing. We're gonna give our reaction to President Biden's one-year press conference. See you in 3.
Good Ranchers, straight from the American farm. 100% American meat, 100% of the time. Delivered straight to your door.
Wait, are those my Good Rancher steaks? I'll be taking these.
Claim your 10 free bistro fillets with your next order with promo code TPUSA Live at goodranchers.com.
What if I told you that this has all happened before? The riots, violence, church burning, attacks on police, destruction of private property.
My name is Sammy Steigman. I am a Holocaust survivor.
This is the reality of what happens when you have capitalism that goes to socialism.
El socialismo no funciona. El socialismo no funciona.
TPUSA Live is about to be spicy. I mean, would you expect anything less? It's me, Alex Clark. Of course it's gonna be spicy. Tune into the Spillover, my brand new podcast. Think of it like the older sister to politics with a lot more conservative.
What's up, guys? My name is Jon Root, and every week I'm breaking down the top stories in sports and bringing you conversations you won't hear anywhere else. It's gonna be a great time here on Breakaway. Welcome back to TPUSA Live. We got time for one last thing. Isabel Brown, MAGA Hulk, Stephen Davis, Jobob. I'm Jon Root. You might have seen President Biden's press conference because tomorrow is his 1-year anniversary of taking over, and I don't know if things could have been any worse in 1 year.
Don't speak that into existence.
Let's hold on. We're 1 year into a 4-year term, dude.
We're manifesting some pretty
But
crazy
the crazy
thoughts.
part is, you wouldn't know it by just listening to President Biden. It was almost like sports reference here. What happened this last weekend? I know we got a lot of Arizona Cardinals fans here, and if you had the head coach of the Cardinals that just got absolutely smoked by the Rams, if he went to the post-game presser and said, "You know what? I think it was pretty successful. I think we did a good job." And you know how we fix it? If we spend $1 trillion.
Fix what isn't broken, of course, naturally. Yeah.
True. Be like, good call, Coach.
Fantastic.
I think that's it.
That's fantastic.
I mean, that's exactly what I thought of here. It's absolutely, it's asinine what we just heard.
The only thing that would make that analogy more relevant is if they blew a 90-point lead.
They basically did. Let's think about it that way. Who was in office right before him, okay? Look at gas prices alone. This time under President Trump, we were seeing them plummet to the ground. At one point in the state of Kentucky, I think it was, they got down to less than $1 a gallon. Okay, now you're seeing almost $8 a gallon in one swing of a presidency. So they did fumble a 90-point lead.
Gas is up 49.6%.
That's not that much, is it?
In 1 year.
I cry every time.
1 year, mind you.
The guy that's from
is
California
great.
says that.
Yeah,
We're doing great.
okay, LA.
We're doing fantastic right now.
Is that your take? Is that your solid take?
That's my hot take for today. You know what I'm saying? This is absolutely phenomenal. Doing great.
I was talking to a couple of guys upstairs because we were all sitting around the TV watching, and we were kind of just remarking on, it's interesting to see the perspective of America shift with online presence. Like right when President Obama would give press conferences like this, he'd make stuff up just like all politicians do, because that's what the government does. They just make stuff up. But nobody really could fact check it in real time. People kind of just took it as it is, as like, okay, well, he said it, maybe that's right, maybe it's not, I don't really know. Nowadays, people given the internet go, no, that's a terribly wrong, pretty immediately. And it's kind of interesting to see the world react in real time to pretty much an antiquated way of doing press conferences, of just saying things that you want to be true even though they're not. And seeing the world just react to that has been kind of interesting.
Once again, I really wish we have those 3 people hired for the misinformation team.
That is what we're missing.
We could use them right now.
Dang it!
What's that hiring process like? Can we get them in there? We need you.
Well, there's probably not going to be very many background checks given what's happened in the past few weeks at CNN. So hopefully they hire him soon.
I think Isabel would actually get the job if she applied.
Oh, no.
I think you should actually apply.
We actually should.
That would be a
great idea. You should
apply for the CNN misinformation
CNN,
team.
if you're watching, this is not actually going to happen, but we totally should do it.
Totally
You should do
apply.
it, and they should take that phone call on TPUSA Live.
Absolutely.
That would be
They'd
fantastic.
never call. They would never even read the application, let's just be honest, but it would be fun.
But I know we're going to break this down quite a bit tomorrow because I know Press Secretary Jen Psaki is going to take questions. Peter Ducey and her, I'm sure, are going to have a nice little back and forth. But the crazy part was, if you watch this press conference that we're going to show you videos tomorrow, give you once again a full breakdown with Drew Hernandez, is he actually took questions.
Amazingly.
Was it? But also knowing too, a fun fact here is this was President Biden's 10th press conference since taking office, and it's fewer than his 5 predecessors at the same point.
Think about it this way. That's less than once a month. You're giving an update to the American people, your boss, if you really want to see it that way, less than once a month.
Well, several of those were with somebody else. I think this is only his second solo press conference.
We haven't heard from him since October, I believe, was the last time he addressed anyone.
He took questions in the way of, I'm going to take a question from Isabel Brown.
They told me you were first on the list.
Are we really surprised at this point,
No.
though? I mean, are we really surprised? They're not going to let them off the leash like that and just go, half-baked. No, they got to curtail it a little bit.
No, it's
They might let him go half-baked.
No, it's full
I don't know about that.
It's 100% baked.
Yeah.
I could just see his team back there. They're just like,
oh no,
the bird's out of the nest. Oh boy.
The eagle.
So I'm
is
telling
happening.
you, so I'm gonna whisper in a really weird way.
Every time,
Yell
the
very
weird
loudly.
whisper, that gets me every time. It reminded me of the
Yeah.
Afghanistan press conference where he like goes over the mic and like leans into it. It's just so odd, and it just blows my mind that we're not pointing out how weird that is. Like that's not normal human behavior, let alone presidential behavior.
What are you talking about? 89% of the shelves are full. I'm telling you. 89. That's a B plus. But hey, this has been a great show. MAGA Hulk, Stephen Davis, Jobob, Isabel Brown. Coming up next, the final speech from AmericaFest 2021. Charlie Kirk goes off. See you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Welcome to our first ever political correctness and inclusivity training. First off, safety. Just want to make sure that everyone here is jabbed, right? Just kidding, none of my business. So I'm Dylan, I'm your HR rep. A little bit about me. I'm a white man, and I'm so sorry if that makes any of you uncomfortable. On to the first order of business today. We're going to be talking about diversity. And Josh, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Donde está la biblioteca? I'm from Colorado. I learned that from Dora.
Okay, second order of business. This is a mental health friendly workplace. Yes, Alex.
If we're really a mental health friendly workplace, what are we doing about the suicide rate of the birds? Because I saw 2 dead birds in the parking lot yesterday.
Alex, shut up.
Yeah, there's been a really big disregard for the bird lives ever since people in the office started sharing the birds are not real meme. Birds are definitely real. The government's putting chips in their brain, which is making them self-destruct and kill themselves, and we have to be talking about the real issues, or what are we doing here at all? Bird lives matter.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
That's what BLM stands for. That's not what it stands for.
She brings this up every time.
Why is Mitchell in a Pope costume?
Why are because I feel like
They
it's
don't
serious.
I think this went really well. All in all, this is a great place to work, and we're becoming more politically correct every single day.
Used to that, the fire right as you turn around the corner. Please sit down, everybody. What a great couple days, hasn't it? It's just been incredible. And I got to tell you, we do so much at Turning Point USA on campus, high school, college chapters. We're working really hard. And as you can see, look around you. The team went above and beyond at Turning Point USA to make sure that you had a special couple days. And you know, from the country music to the early worship on Sunday, to all the breakouts, to the sponsors, it really was a very, very special weekend. And I am happy to say that all of you can now say that you were part of the largest multi-day conservative event in American history. It's amazing. So, I want to talk about a couple things as we kind of close this conference, and then of course we have the wonderful Kayleigh McEnany coming up, which is, I mentioned this briefly in our opening remarks, and Turning Point USA, we are a student organization first and foremost, and I think we need to kind of zero in on the problems and the issues that are facing our generation and Generation Z. Now, I'm what would be called a transgenerational. I get to choose what generation I'm part of, so I disavow millennials, okay? So I get to be Generation Z, or whatever. But whether it's millennial or Generation Z, and every parent out here, as I talk about this, I'm not blaming the older generation for these conditions, but it's important that we do take a step back and say that young people are they're entering into a world that is completely and fundamentally different than one that was in the 1980s and 1990s. This is the most depressed, most suicidal, most drug addicted, most alcohol addicted, least married, most childless generation in American history. And we should take a pause and ask ourselves the question, what is causing this, and what are we doing to stop it? First and foremost on an individual level, then on a family level, then a community level, and then on a national political level. And first on the individual level, I think that one of the major issues that we're seeing is that we have a generation that is searching for meaning and searching for purpose. And you see that here at this conference. The most enthusiastic applause lines and speakers are people that are not just saying that the right is good and the left is bad, but instead is saying, here's what you got to do to get your life in order to find something that's actually going to live longer than you. You see, one of the major mistakes we've made in America, and we're fixing it here at AmericaFest, is that we used to tell young people that you're the problem and you have a lot of work to do, and America's wonderful. Now we say to young people, you're wonderful and America's terrible. We totally flipped it upside down. And one of the main reasons why we have over 100,000 young people that have overdosed on opioids in this year alone, 100,000 young people, is that students and members of Generation Z and millennials, they look around, they say that there is no purpose or meaning or place for me. And that's one of the big lies. You want to talk about the big lie? The big lie is allowing a generation to literally believe that there is no place for them to be able to succeed and flourish in this country. And so you look at the statistics, it's the most suicidal generation in American history. Now, if I were to ask the audience, how many of you know someone personally that committed suicide? Raise your hand. Almost every single hand goes up. This should be a fire alarm for our civilization, by the way. And by the way, it's way more important than systemic racism. I'm way more interested in systemic suicide in our country than systemic racism, which doesn't exist, by the way, which is systemic racism does not exist in America, but systemic suicide does. And what is causing this? Well, there's a lot of different factors. I think technology is playing a huge role in this. In fact, I think that, and I see this all the time, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but honestly, if I do, I don't care, because it's the last day. So, and you're not getting a refund, so sorry. Which is, when I see 8-year-olds at a restaurant, and no one's talking to one another, and everyone's staring at screens, and they give a 7-year-old an iPad, which is basically a digital pacifier, I think there's something really wrong with that. I think there's something deeply unhealthy with that. And so some of you might remember last year in Palm Beach at the Student Action Summit, I gave a list of things that I would like everyone to do, and I was pretty kind of intensely against technology. And then, you know, this year was a wonderful year. I got married in May, which was awesome. And I encourage every young person to get married early. It's not a joke when I say that. You should reject hookup culture. You should save yourself for one human being and get married early. I don't give advice to young women on how to find a man. I will say to young men, get your act together and really make self-control and self-discipline a priority in your life. One of the reasons why so many young women are upset with the dating pool, I hear this all the time, is that they see men that can't control themselves. And as you can tell, the young ladies are very enthusiastic about hearing this. And by the way, here's a thought crime for you. Women want to be led. Women want to be led by strong men. And men are different than women, and women are different than men, and both need each other, by the way. And so when I got married back in May to my wonderful wife, I decided to turn my phone off completely for 10 days. Just turn it off and just focus on each other, focus on God. And it was one of the most incredible experiences for a variety of reasons. And as I look back at this year, that was really a couple days that changed my life, where we went on this incredible honeymoon in paradise, and we were focusing on one another and focusing on the natural beauty and focusing on God and all these amazing things. And we were looking around at these other people that were vacationing and honeymooning, by the way, and they weren't focusing on each other. They were like strangely bringing their friends from 2,000 miles away into paradise, either like because they're so kind of like unable to deal with the current moment, or they're so narcissistic they need to tell everybody that they're on the beach in the Caribbean. And what was amazing is watching couple after couple and family after family, not even with kids there, no one was talking to one another. Instead, they were Snapchatting and Instagramming and going through TikTok. Meanwhile, there's a whole world out there that they were missing. And I realized that the introduction of this technology, look, technology can be a positive. But I think that's a bad argument. You know, a lot of people say, you know, technology only gives you more of what you already have and less of what you don't have. I don't think that's true. I think these phones are changing who we actually are as human beings. I think that it's actually remaking what we get angry about, what we get happy about, and what we value. And so after the honeymoon, I did a lot of thinking, and I wrote a whole piece about this. And I asked, and I've always been super jealous of practicing Jews that practice the Sabbath. And then I asked myself, well, why don't we do that as Christians more, right? And I really did a lot of thinking. In July, I said, okay, Friday night, I'm going to start doing the Sabbath. Turn off my phone, no technology. At first, it was really hard. I got to be honest. You get really anxious, like, am I missing something? And in August, September, October, November, every Friday night for 25 hours, and yes, 25, that's right. You add an hour on for an extra hour of prayer and meditation. I started this year just completely turning my phone off the grid, right? Giving one day to God. And I have to tell you right now, it was this amazing revelation of something I would always be saying in front of audiences, but then I realized how true it was, which is that God gave us the law to bless us. You see, in the Decalogue, the 10 Commandments, a great example is that one of the only 10 commandment that actually comes with a promise is honor your mother and father so you might live long in the land of which you are in. Good advice for every student out there, honor your parents, it's very important. Every totalitarian country tries to break the bond between parents and children. They do this time and time again. This is why queer theory, transgender theory, critical race theory, wokeism, diversity, equity, inclusion, they're trying to break the bond between a parent and a child. But also, it says very clearly that we must dedicate one day to God. And in Mark 2 or Mark 3, it says that, that we were not made for the Sabbath was made for man. It's that this is a gift for us. And you look in this hyper-technological world where everything is moving so fast, and you might be in this room right now or watching online, you might be super anxious. And someone might be trying to push medication on you that you don't need, by the way. And someone might be trying to tell you that, like, oh, all you have to do is do weed. Bad idea, by the way. Don't do that. And like, oh yeah, just take a hit of weed, or all you got to do is drink before you go to bed. And like, you know that these substances probably aren't going to give you what you're looking for. When have you tried dedicating one day out of the week to the Lord and turning off that stupid smartphone? Have you tried that? Because I can tell you, it was a massive blessing to me in 2021. Is that all of a sudden it recenters your whole week. You journal, you read books. I know it's a radical thing. And like you could do it to varying degrees. Some people don't get in cars. I drive around sometimes on the Sabbath. Sometimes I was traveling, so I had to give a speech and kind of wasn't able to cancel. The point is that throughout the day, you're not constantly checking for emails and messages. Instead, you're like, oh, I'm without kind of this coping mechanism I carry around with me, otherwise known as a smartphone. And so this year, as I look back at it, I don't know if we'd be able to have an event like this or the success we had if I personally wouldn't have realized that the Lord commands us to take one day to rest in the midst of all the craziness. And look, some of you might be busier than me. You might be. If you traveled more than 330 days this year and did more than 600 podcasts and have over 200 people on staff, 200 full-time people on staff, and have to raise a lot of money, maybe you're busier than me. Maybe you are. I'm not saying I'm the busiest person there. I'm not. The point is that if I'm able to do the Sabbath, I really encourage you guys to do this. In fact, I think that if just all regular Americans turned off TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Apple, all of a sudden, I think it would make America an infinitely better place to live. I truly do. So, a couple other things I want to share with you. And by the way, if I think that could help solve some of the issues of suicide, alcoholism, drug addiction, just that alone, and because I think it actually helps lead to other things. Okay, my other advice to students and young people, and again, it's super contrarian, but it's true, is that first you have to know what you want. It's a really important thing. I know that sounds so obvious, but so many young people don't even know what they want, which is why they're so miserable, right? Is that they don't even know what is good or what is tragic or what is wonderful. And so you should want to be good at saying no. And not everyone's good at this, by the way. You should desire to be able to say no to your flesh and to temptation and to things that sound good and feel good in the moment. Here's a little secret for you. The most productive people that you saw speak on this stage, the people that you might look up to like Tucker Carlson, they have made life choices that are permanent, that say no to things that might make them feel good immediately. For example, Tucker Carlson doesn't drink, right? Not everyone knows that. And so, now, by the way, if you drink, I really don't care. I'm not a moralist in that sense. However, that to compete at the level Tucker Carlson's at, to go do a nightly news show and to write it unique and all that, he admits that alcohol would weigh him down, that he wouldn't be able to do what he does. And so here's the lie that you're being told. You can't have it all. You can't. You have to prioritize some things. You're gonna have to let go of things that might make you feel good in the moment to go pursue something that is more meaningful than an instant dopamine kick. And here's another good rule for life. If it feels good in the moment, it's probably not good for you. If it feels good immediately, it's probably not good for you. And again, there's extremes to that, right? Like working out can feel really good. There's also extremes to that. Again, you can make your own choices. You can see what you see fit. But I know right now that at least half the room, this is resonating at some fundamental level. Because if you're like, man, I got to get my life together going to 2022. I'm not performing at the highest level I can. Well, then you should desire to be able to say no. Okay, the other thing, for all the young people out there, you know my thoughts on college. We run a college organization. I think it's a scam. I think most people shouldn't go to college. You know that. I speak openly about it. And I think parents sending your kids to college is playing Russian roulette with your kids' values, right? And the wisest, most incredible people, I think, the ones that don't go to college. Now, of course, I lose my audience because you're like, okay, I'm in college. That doesn't do me any good, Charlie. Okay, so I get it. And I'm talking to high schoolers as well. And by the way, less than 5% of people that go to college probably need to go to college. The 95%, it doesn't really do much for you. It doesn't. Instead, here's the charge that you should have. Two things. You should try to become a better person. That's the most important thing. Number two thing, we need more young people to start new things. We need more young people to start new churches, to start new businesses, to start new families. You see, college doesn't teach you any of this. I always laugh when people say, I'm studying entrepreneurship. Like, you don't study entrepreneurship. You do entrepreneurship, okay? Like, it's like, I'm studying how to, so what my challenge to you is there's some young person out there, you have a business idea, go do it. When you are 18, 19, and 20 years old, guess what? Here's a little secret. You could always go back to college. Always. They'll allow you as long as the check clears. It's true. It's not some rule that you have to go when you're 18. And by the way, it's mostly stuff that you're either gonna regret or forget. That's mainly what college is, okay? Regretting and forgetting. But guess what? If you're 18, you say, well, Charlie, what do I do instead? Super easy. Find something you're good at, not something you have a passion for, two totally different things. I have a passion for college football. Very mediocre. Unless if you watch the Relief Factor ad, then I'm actually really good. So, but a skill I have is not that. Find your skill, not your passion. But again, hopefully it's not a skill that you like totally hate. Hopefully you like it. And then here's the thing. It's so simple. Go find someone who's really good and has perfected what your skill is and go ask them for a job or an unpaid internship. It's that simple. You don't need to go to college to do that. You need to be willing to succeed. It's that simple. And guess what? You want to stand out? If you're a 16-year-old and you really want to stand out, and by the way, parents, I could just feel the anxiety, the sweat, the denunciation, the preparedness to say Charlie was wrong in the ride over. I hear the conversation, and that's, you know what? I embrace it fully, because if someone needs to say this stuff out loud, because it's true, which is, if you're 16, 17, or 18, and you have that skill, and you go find someone who's good at that, all of a sudden you want to stand out. If you want to be the person that people remember, it's not going to Harvard, Stanford, Princeton, or Yale, or any of that nonsense. You want to stand out? Be the kid that asked for an internship that was scrappy enough, hungry enough, and humble enough to go sweep floors, to learn the actual thing you need to do. That'll make you stand out if you want to go find a job and you want to climb up in what you want to do in the future. Okay, learn something new every single day, something that excites me about all of you. And I just want to thank you. You guys are like the best audience, those of you that support Turning Point USA, those of you that support our podcast. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys are so unbelievable, especially those that listen to our podcast and support it. I'm so touched by that. And something that really motivates me and encourages me is all of your desire to learn. And this is a great sign, by the way. If you want to be optimistic about something, it's that every single one of you have a special focus and intensity lately to want to dive deeper into our history, into our ideas, and to where we came from. Guess what? That's a sign of a winning coalition. So here's my challenge to you, especially young people of all ages, is take a journal and say, I learned this about my country today. I learned this about philosophy today. A people that are learning constantly, you'll be able to find the answers and the clarity necessary to act and to be able to hold these tyrants and these authoritarians and these despicable narcissists accountable. Learn something new every single day. And so you say, well, Charlie, how do I do that? Okay, I'll make it really easy for you. We partner with Hillsdale College. They're amazing. You guys can go to charlieforhillsdale.com. Do we have some Hillsdale students here? I think we do. And you guys can take their online course. It's super easy. Listen to my podcast. You can listen to Tucker. Whatever it is, make learning as important as bodybuilders make weightlifting. So I want you to think about that. Is that if you're not using your mind every single, by the way, the mind is a beautiful gift from the Lord. And most people just kind of go through the motions. They don't really think deeply about what's going on around them. There's so much wonder and wisdom that will make your life so much more fulfilling. You want to know why this generation is so suicidal? We've told them that there's no truth worth pursuing. We've told them that there's no absolute truths. We've told them that, oh, you're just a bunch of cells, a bunch of chemicals, just do things that make you feel good. When in reality, we know there's a transcendent order, where there's a creator that loves us and that we're made in his image, and that you want to know the beginning of philosophy, it starts with wonder, like, wow, there's so much in this world that I really don't understand. And wisdom is the knowledge of things that do not change. Wisdom is the knowledge of how human beings act, and also things that are just as true as they were 200 years ago, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago. Practical knowledge is important. Wisdom or eternal knowledge is the most important thing. Finally, I want to just say that one of my favorite Bible verses that I don't think gets quoted enough is Philippians 4:6-8, which is, do not be anxious, but instead, through prayer, thanksgiving, and supplication, make your requests known to God. For the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard and protect your heart and mind in all circumstances, and whatever is good, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is beautiful, whatever is kind. I get those words mixed up sometimes. Ponder and think on those things, for through Christ Jesus, he will set you free. One of my favorite verses. And basically the whole idea is this, and I know this is a huge problem. The mental health problem in our country is very significant, everybody, and it shouldn't be made fun of. But we must understand that the Lord gave us tools and abilities, especially for young people out there, for you to break free and to break through of maybe getting trapped in your own head, maybe getting trapped in your own thoughts, maybe the constant negativity that's around you. Here's the amazing message of positivity and optimism I have for you, is that through Jesus Christ, through the teaching of the scriptures, through things that are totally true and wise and eternally true, that every single person here can break through of any of that cycle of negativity you're in right now, and that tomorrow can be a much better day than today was. And today should be a better day than yesterday, and you can actually commit yourself to that sort of improvement, because guess what? We have free will, we have agency, and we have the ability to continue to improve. And you put all that together, that's what makes America so incredibly special, is that in this country, you are able to use the liberty that the Lord gives you, because liberty is not man's idea, it's God's idea, to be able to pursue virtue and things that are always true. So I just want to encourage this generation. You guys get insulted way too much by, let's just say, boomers, okay? This generation, there's going to be something very special that happens out of this generation. This generation is starting to wake up. They see the cost of the lockdowns, the masks, and the vaccine mandates. They're starting to ask questions. And this generation is going to be one that is going to turn, get it, the trajectory of the nation towards one that is filled of liberty and freedom and virtue and eternal things. And that's really what we at Turning Point USA fight for every single day. God bless you guys. Thank you so much.
How much does the earth cost? I'm gonna buy the entire earth.
Hey everyone, Jon Root here. Coming up next on TPUSA Live, tune into a brand new episode of Politics where Alex Clark explains why Aaron Rodgers and Shailene Woodley's relationship may be on the rocks. 200+ doctors say Joe Rogan is a menace to public health. A few fun facts and so much more pop culture without the propaganda. Next on Politics.
I guess I'm a gamer now.
Hello. Do you want to play a game?
Quiet, you. If you've been watching Politics for at least a few months, then you know this. But for our new members of the Cute-Servative fam, I've been skeptical of Aaron Rodgers and Shailene Woodley since day one. I don't see them lasting at all. Now, stories have come out that he's controlling and jealous. Do you remember seeing all those mainstream headlines that said 270 doctors called out Joe Rogan for being a menace to public health last week? Turns out the fake news lied bigly on that, and they're not the only liars today. Andrew Garfield lied to Emma Stone about filming the new Spider-Man, and things get even sketchier when you find out who became trillionaires during the pandemic. I'm Alex Clark, and this is Politics. OK Magazine is speculating that Shailene Woodley and Aaron Rodgers may be on the rocks after being together just shy of a year. What evidence do you have? Well, a source close to the couple is alleging that when they first got together, they both agreed to give each other a bunch of freedom, but then Aaron started making a big deal out of Shailene having guy friends, even though those relationships were totally platonic. Aaron was grilling her all the time, and she felt suffocated.
What are you doing here today? Is this some kind of setup or something?
What do you mean?
I'm just on my way to the beach.
Do you care if your partner hangs out alone with friends of the opposite sex? And if so, why?
Whose shoes are these?
These are mine.
Whose bra is this?
I'm a secret.
Who is she?
That's my cousin.
Last week, after his Dr. Malone interview, everyone from Rolling Stone to The Guardian and Vulture posted an open letter from 270 doctors asking Spotify to do something about Joe Rogan's podcast, claiming he's a menace to public health.
That seems a little dramatic.
These doctors demanded Spotify take action against Joe Rogan by implementing a misinformation policy and claimed Rogan has a concerning history of broadcasting misinformation when it comes to the pandemic.
What? What are you scared of?
Here's the kicker. It turns out the majority of so-called doctors who signed this open letter aren't even medical doctors.
Ha-ha, you fool! You fell victim to one of the classic blunders.
The Blaze reported that out of all of these signatories, okay, only 82 of them were actual MD doctors. 5 of these doctors were osteopathic, more than 12 nurse practitioners signed, nearly 100 basically professors, people with PhDs or PhD candidates, registered nurses, veterinarians, a dentist, a psychologist, which of course is different than a psychiatrist, that requires an MD, physician's assistants, a biochemist, master's students, research associates, pharmacists, a laboratory supervisor, medical students, public health advisors, teachers, engineers, social workers, and even a podcast host. So I'm sorry, this podcast host says that Joe Rogan is spreading disinformation because he's just a podcast host and not a doctor, but he's a podcast host and not a doctor, but he can say something. Okay.
It feels like somebody wants to sell me something.
What a bombshell. This is the podcast host that they tried to say was a doctor, by the way. Cole, the science dude with the he, him pronouns in his bio, since the dude wasn't clear enough, I guess. Cannabis specialist and anti-fascist political theory nerd.
You know,
I'm something of a scientist myself.
It's funny how the misinformation in regard to this pandemic seems to keep coming from one side. I wouldn't be surprised if the chick from Misery was on that list.
There is nothing to worry about. You're gonna be just fine. I'm your #1 fan.
Apparently no one knew that Andrew Garfield was gonna be in the new Spider-Man No Way Home movie. Not even his former co-star and ex-girlfriend Emma Stone.
Emma kept on texting me and she was like, "Are you in this new Spider-Man film?" And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about."
What? You're stonewalling Emma too?
She was like, "Shut up, just tell me." I'm like, "I honestly don't know what." I kept it going even with her. It was hilarious.
To the end? You never admitted to Emma?
No. And then she saw it. She was like, "You're a jerk."
My favorite part of this story is that even though they aren't together anymore, they still text and are clearly super friendly. He just seems like a decent guy.
I made a choice. This is my path.
2 fun facts today. One, Matt Walsh's episode of Dr. Phil aired today, so hopefully you recorded that on your DVR. Do people still do that anymore?
The dispute over gender pronouns.
I don't identify exclusively with being a man or a woman. I use they and them as my pronouns.
You don't get your own pronouns.
You think it's a delusion.
In school, our kids are being asked what their pronoun is.
This is a war on gender.
Babies are babies without a known sex.
When they were born, we did not assign a sex.
You think it's toxic to label the child one way or the other.
New Dr. Phil.
And 2, the world's 10 richest men, including Bezos, Zuckerberg, and Bill Gates, became trillionaires during the pandemic. This is why when people ask me if I think this will ever stop and we'll go back to normal, I say, no, I don't.
Then while we're fat and sick, they're getting rich.
I think that Joe Rogan story is unbelievably important. Imagine if people came for Alex Cooper on Call Her Daddy anytime she or her guest gave destructive relationship advice. People would think that was a violation of her freedom of speech. I said what I said. So, heart this episode to spread the word. Tag a friend in the comments who's a doctor or a nurse and ask them if they've seen that story about Joe Rogan. Then share the episode to your Instagram stories and tap the save button so it shows up for people on their feed. We're back tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. It's pop culture without the propaganda every single day. I'm Alex Clark, and this is Poplitics. Support Poplitics, the first ever conservative pop culture daily show, by subscribing to our channel, turning on notifications, and, of course, hitting the thumbs up. Also, our main home is on Instagram. Seriously, just trust me, that's where the real magic happens. Follow us there at Poplitics.